Hi guys, it's Lisa Murphy and I'm going to read you two books on the porch today. Somebody and the Three Blairs and Bark, George. Somebody and the Three Blairs by Marilyn Tolhurst and illustrations are by Simone Abel. This is one I have been reading to children for a long time, and it's funny because there's one particular group of kids that seriously got into it, and so even though it's so many years later, when I read it, I still see that particular group of kids in front of me, and it was a long time ago. One Sunday morning in a small house on the edge of town, Mr. Blair and Mrs. Blair and Baby Blair were sitting down to breakfast. "It's such a fine morning," said Mr. Blair. "Let's take a walk in the park." "What a good idea," said Mrs. Blair. "Let's go feed the ducks," said Baby Blair. So they took their coats and a bag of breadcrumbs and they set out for the park. But while they were gone, somebody came to the door. Somebody knocked. And when nobody answered, somebody let themselves in. He sniffed and he sniffed and he looked at the breakfast table and he said, "This food is too dry. This food is too noisy. Oh, but this food is just right," said somebody. So now he looked for somewhere to sit down. "Oh, this seat is too hard," said somebody. "Oh, this one is too wobbly," he said. "Oh, but this seat is just right." So now he looked for something to play with. "Oh, this game is too noisy," said somebody. "Ooh, this game is too cold. But this game is just right." And Caitlin used to say, that game's called "Let's Make a Mess in the Kitchen." So now he looked for something to drink. "Ooh, this rain is too hot. Oh, but this pond is too small. Look at the pond. Look at that pond. Ooh, but this stream is just right." So now he looked for somewhere to sleep. "Oh, this bed is too big," said somebody. "Oh, this one's too small. Oh, but this bed is just right." When Mr. and Mrs. Blair and Baby Blair came home from the park, they saw the breakfast table. "Somebody's been eating my crunchies," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody's been eating my Crispies," said Mrs. Blair. "All gone," said Baby Blair. Then they looked around the room. "Somebody's been sitting on my chair," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody's been sitting on my chair," said Mrs. Blair. "My chair is busted," said Baby Blair. Then they went into the kitchen. "Somebody's been emptying the cupboard," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody's been raiding the fridge," said Mrs. Blair. "Somebody's been naughty," said Baby Blair. But then they went upstairs. "It's a flood," said Mr. Blair. "Help," said Mrs. Blair. "That's a lot of water," said Baby Blair. Then they looked in the bedrooms. "It's a burglar," said Mr. Blair. "It's a monster," said Mrs. Blair. "It's a big teddy bear," said Baby Blair. "It escaped from the zoo," said Mr. Blair. "It escaped from the circus," said Mrs. Blair. "It escaped down the dwaypipe," said Baby Blair. "Somebody better call the police," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody ought to call the fire department," said Mrs. Blair. "Somebody gone home," said Baby Blair. "Bye-bye. Come back and play again tomorrow." Somebody and the Three Blairs. Okay, one more for you. This is called Bark, George by Jules Pfeiffer. I love this book. It's funny to watch how some kids get this book and some kids don't get the book. It's really kind of interesting to watch, like where the human gene actually kicks in. I am going to actually take off this cover because I don't want to be distracted by it. Okay, here we go. Bark, George. George's mother said, "Bark, Bark, George. And George said, meow. No, 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 said George's mama. Cats say meow. Dogs go arf, arf. Now, bark, George. And George said, quack, quack. No, George, said his mother. Ducks say quack, quack. Dogs go arf, arf. Bark, George. George said, oink, 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 oink. No, George, said his mother. Pigs say oink, 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 oink. Dogs go arf, arf, arf. Bark, George. George said, mrrr. So George's mama took him to the vet. I will get to the bottom of this, said the veterinarian. Please bark, George. And George said, meow. So the vet reached down deep, 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 deep inside, and he pulled out a cat. Bark again, George. George said, quack, quack. And the vet reached deep, 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 deep down inside of George and pulled out a duck. Bark again, George, said the vet. And George said, oink, oink, oink. So the vet reached deep, 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 deep inside and pulled out a pig. Bark again, George. This time the vet put on his longest glove of all. And he reached deep, 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 deep inside of George. And he pulled out a cow. Bark again, George. And George said, arf, arf, arf. Oh, and George's mama was so proud. She kissed the vet, she kissed the cat and the duck and the pig and the cow. And on the way home, she wanted to show George off to everybody on the street. So she said, bark, George. And George said, hello. Do you get it? I hope you have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. It's been nice seeing you, although virtually and long distance, but socially distant, right? So that's good. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will be back with you soon. It's Lisa Murphy, and thanks for joining us for story time, porch time, patio time. Bye. I can turn this off.